We are officially in the week leading up to the 3.7 update, and so today I'm here with the full build guide for the first main character of the update, Cyrene. In this video, I'm going to be taking you over her kit and eidolons, Lightcone options, relic options, and ornament options, and the stats you want to run on them, and also substat goals. Throughout this week, I will have a build guide on every single returning character as well for 3.7. So if you're interested in this video, obviously being for Cyrene, which is why you're here, and if you're also interested in any of the characters that are rerunning in the patch, so any of the other 6 characters, there will be a video for a guide when it comes to their build out this week. With that being said, let's jump straight into the video. Cyrene is a Ice Remembrance character. Her basic attack lets her gain a recollection point and will deal ice damage based off her max HP to a designated enemy. Her skill grants 3 recollection points and will deploy a zone for 2 turns, which will decrease by 1 at the start of her turn. While the zone is active, anytime someone on your team deals damage, there will be an additional instance of true damage dealt, equal to 24% of the original damage, and if Cyrene is knocked down, the zone is dispelled. Her ultimate will summon her Memo Sprite, cause it immediately to gain an extra turn, and will activate all teammates' ultimates. Then will enter the Ripple state, where basic attack will be enhanced, and you can now only use that basic attack rather than the regular one. Cyrene and the Memo Sprite's crit rate increases by 50%, and they will deploy a zone from the skill with no active duration. That can only be used once per combat, and the Memo Sprite's initial max HP is equal to 100% of Cyrene's max HP. The enhanced basic attack gains 3 recollection points and will deal ice damage to a designated enemy and also to everyone else on the field, so it is a fully AoE attack now. Her talent, when combat begins or after Cyrene takes action, other characters under any state and their Memo Sprites will gain a future buff. Anyone with future, when they do act, they will consume that future stack to give Cyrene a recollection point. Reaching 24 recollection will allow her to use her ultimate, and also all debuffs on her will be dispelled. When she's already used her first ultimate, so when you get to 24 and you use it, thereafter every other ultimate cost to proc will be 12. So when you have 12 recollection points while in the Ripple state, you can use her ultimate. You can overflow up to a maximum of 3 points, so 27 max. And Cyrene existing on the field will increase damage dealt for all allies by 20%. The technique creates a special dimension that lasts for 30 seconds. Enemies within the dimension will enter this moment forever state, which increases movement speed for all your allies in the dimension by 50%. Entering combat with the technique active will deploy the skill zone, and only one dimension effect can be created by allies can exist at the same time. Now for her Memo Sprite. Her AoE skill will deal ice damage equal to 60% of the Memo Sprite's max HP to all enemies. The talent is the Memo Sprite's speed remains at 0 and does not appear on the action order. While it's on the field, it's considered as out of bounds. When changes occur on Cyrene's HP percentage, the Memo Sprite's HP percentage will also change accordingly. While the Memo Sprite exists on the field, both the Memo Sprite and Cyrene's max HP increases by 24%. After using abilities, all continuous effects duration on this unit will decrease by 1. And also, for the unique enhance, anytime you summon the Memo Sprite, it will dispel crowd control debuffs from all allies. And now for the longest part, taking you over every single Chrysos Heir buff. So it will apply a buff to a designated ally. When the character is a Chrysos Heir, they will gain a special effect. And if they're not a Chrysos Heir, instead they rather will gain 40% increased damage dealt for 2 turns, and also applies the Memo Sprites. For the Remembrance Trailblazer, it will be an effect that is active throughout the entire battle. It will increase the Trailblazer's attack equal to 16% of the Memo Sprite's max HP, and will increase the Trailblazer's crit rate by an amount equal to 72% of the Memo Sprite's crit rate. The effect also applies to Mem, and after Trailblazer uses enhanced basic attack in battle, Cyrene's Memo Sprite immediately gains an extra turn and automatically will use her Bloom's Arrow Shot. If the target was defeated before the ability is used, it will be used on a newly appeared enemy targets instead. The effect on Aglia is a one-time effect, which will cause Aglia to gain the Romantic effect and immediately stack Garment Maker's Memo Sprite talent speed boost effect to its max. After Aglia or Garment Maker attacks, it will consume Romantic and regenerate 70 energy. It will increase the damage dealt by Aglia and Garment Maker by 72%, and will also allow her to ignore 36% of the target's defense that lasts until Aglia exits the Supreme Stance state. Using it on Tribby will grant her a buff that is effective for the entire battle, which will cause the damage dealt by Tribby to ignore 12% of the target's defense. When Tribby launches a follow-up attack and triggers the additional damage from her zone, it further deals an additional instance. The buff for Mide is a one-time effect. Using it on him will remove crowd control debuffs inflicted on him. If Mide is in Vendetta state, he will automatically use an instance of Godslayer Be God without consuming charge. Mide's crit damage is increased by 200% for that attack. If the target is defeated before using it, then it will rather attack the new enemies that enter. And if Mide is not in the Vendetta state, it will instead give him 100% action advance. When used on Castress, it will grant a permanent battle buff, now allowing her to overflow her new blood points up to 200%. Summoning Netherwing will consume all the overflowed points you do have of new blood, and will increase the damage multiplier of the damage dealt by 0.24% for every 1% of overflow value consumed when the summoned Netherwing triggers the ability effect of its talent Wing Sweeps the Runes. If there's 2 or fewer enemies on the field, the damage multiplier additionally increases by 0.48% when summoning. The effect on Anaxa is a one-time effect, which will allow him to recover a skill point for all allies, and will allow Anaxa to immediately take action. It increases the skill damage instances by 3 for 1 turn. Next time Anaxa uses his basic attack or skill, he gains True Knowledge, which increases the attack of all Erudition Path characters by 60% and skill damage dealt by 40% until the next Anaxa's turn. When used on Hyacine, when Cyrene's Memo Sprite uses skill, Hyacine gains 2 stacks of Ode to Sky. When using it on Hyacine, she will regenerate 24 energy for Hyacine. When Hyacine does have Ode to Sky and is providing healing, the healing amount for Little Ika's Memo Sprite skill will be increased, equal to 72% of the healing value this time. And after Hyacine uses skill/ultimate, it will consume a stack of Ode to Sky. Cypher's buff is a permanent one throughout the entire battle, which will increase the damage dealt by her by 36% and will decrease the defense of the Patron by 20% and defense of enemy targets other than Patron by 12%. When used on Phaidon, it grants him a buff for the entire battle, which will allow him to gain 6 Core Flames as well as Eternal Ignition. When you transform, if you have Core Flames that exceed 12, each X's point will increase his crit damage by 12% up to 72%. While you have Eternal Ignition, it will increase his crit rate by 16%. Once you deplete all his extra turns, the transformation will not end and instead refresh all his extra turns and will also allow him to gain 4 points of Scourge. At the start of his extra turns, it will consume an amount of HP equal to 15% of his current HP, and after using an attack, it will deal 5 instances of additional damage, with each instance dealing fire additional damage equal to 10% of his attack to one random enemy. The buff on Hyacines will be a one-time effect, which will allow her to gain Flowing Warmth. After Hyacines uses an attack, it will consume Flowing Warmth and will regenerate 60 energy for the unit. In the battle, it will increase damage dealt by Hyacines by 120%. After she uses basic attack or skill to attack enemies, it will cause all dots currently placed on those enemies to immediately produce damage equal to 60%/80% of the original damage. The buff for Saridra lasts throughout the entire battle, which will increase the crit damage of the character with military merit by 30%, and after Kudebad ends, Saridra immediately gains a point of charge. The buff for Everdite will be effective throughout the entire battle. After it's used on Everdite, it increases the damage dealt when Eevee uses Memo Sprite's skill Dream Dissolving as due by 18%. After Everdite uses skill/ultimate, additionally gains 1 Memoria point, and the crit damage boost provided by the skill is further increased by an amount equal to 12% of Everdite's crit damage. The buff for Dante is when Cyrene's Memo Sprite uses Memo Sprite's skill, it will grant Ode to Earth to Dante, and the next 3 attacks of Soul Dragon deals additional damage of Bondmaid's type equal to 80% of the Bondmaid's shield effect. When Dante holds Ode to Earth, the Bondmaid deals 24% more damage. When used on Dante, additionally advances Soul Dragon's action by 100%. The Soul Dragon's next action gains the enhanced effects of Dahang's ultimate and shield effect provided by Soul Dragon is 150% of the original shield value, and does not consume the enhancement charge of Dante's ultimate. And if you instead use the actual attack rather than buffing anyone after Cyrene has gained recollection from each different teammate other than the Memo Sprite, when the Memo Sprite uses the attack, it additionally deals an instance of ice damage equal to 60% of the Memo Sprite's max HP to a random enemy. After Cyrene uses her ultimate or when the Memo Sprite is summoned, immediately gains 1 story. When story reaches 3 points, Memo Sprite will consume all story points to immediately gain an extra turn and automatically uses the attack. Jesus Christ, now that we're finally done with that, now her bonus traces. Her A2 will have a teammate when their Memo Sprite is summoned to gain future, and future held by Memo Sprites cannot be consumed. Her A4 for when there are 1/2/3 Crisis Heirs or Remembrance characters on the team aside from Cyrene. She will gain 2/3/6 recollection points at the start of combat. And her A6, when Cyrene's speed is 180 or higher, all allies' damage dealt increases by 20%. Then for each speed that's exceeded, it will increase Cyrene's and the Memo Sprite's ice res pen by 2%, counting up to a maximum of 60 exceeded speed points. Now for her Eidolons. For E1, when the Memo Sprite triggers the Memo Sprite skill owed to blank, while using the attack, gains 6 recollection points and increases the number of bounces for this attack by 12. For E2, when entering combat, additionally gains 12 recollection points. For each different character that gains the Memo Sprite skill buff from the Memo Sprite, the damage multiplier of true damage dealt by allied targets via the skill zone increases by 6%, up to a max of 24%. For E4, each time the Memo Sprite skill uses the attack, the bounce damage multiplier of the triggered Memo Sprite skill owed to blank increases by 6% in the current battle and can be stacked up to 24 times. Enter E6 when Cyrene uses her ultimate for the first time. All allies' actions advance by 100%. Each time when the Memo Sprite triggers the Memo Sprite skill owed to blank and uses the attack, based on the number of times it has been triggered, it will gain the following effects. One time when the Memo Sprite is on the field, it reduces all enemy targets' defense by 20%, and 2 times or more advances all allies' actions by 24%. Now for her Lightcones. So overall, her best in slot is of course her signature Lightcone, providing a 18% increase to speed for the wearer. When the wearer's Memo Sprite uses Memo Sprite skill on allies, gain blank, which will increase damage taken by all enemies by 10%, and when the wearer's Memo Sprite uses the Memo Sprite skill on an enemy, gains verse, which increases crit damage of all allies by 16%. When the wearer's Memo Sprite has both blank and verse, it will increase the effects of both blank and verse by 60%. Since Cyrene does have a relatively high requirement of speed of wanting at least 180, the speed effect is going to be good, plus the fact that she has good base speed, so the percentage buff is nice. Gaining blank and verse is also very easy with her, as the Memo Sprite skill, you can do that, and the Memo Sprite skill on enemies, you also have that arrow shot. So having both will have you gain a increased effect of 60%, which will make enemies take a lot more damage by increasing the vulnerability, and also increase the crit damage of your team by a lot as well. So the fact that she's able to very much utilize this, obviously as it is her own signature Lightcone, and her also having really good buffs out of it, is why it is her overall best in slot opposed to other options. Even though it might not be significantly better, it's still the best option that is usually going to be on top. Another option you can actually use is Hyacinth Signature Lightcone, which also provides the wearer 18% increase to speed. When the wearer uses basic attack, skill, or ultimate, it will consume all allies' HP equal to 1% of their current HP, and after the next attack of the wearer's Memo Sprite, enables it to additionally deal 1 instance of additional damage equal to 250% of the total HP consumed to the attack target with the damage type based on the Memo Sprite's type. Then the total HP consumed is reset. When the wearer's Memo Sprite uses a Memo Sprite skill, increases the damage taken by all enemies by 18%, lasting for 2 turns, and effects of the same type cannot stack. So if you happen to have this Lightcone not on Hyacinth for some reason, Cyrene actually uses this very well. As I did mention, the speed increase is going to be great. You can also make the Memo Sprite attacks do more damage as you are consuming HP for your team, which can actually be optimal if you're not running Hyacinth on like an Evernight Caster's team for some reason, and instead you have this Lightcone on Cyrene. And you can get a damage increase for Cyrene herself via that. On top of that, you are able to use a Memo Sprite skill, so you are making enemies take 80% increased damage for 2 turns. So she is actually able to fully utilize this Lightcone as well. And now the next best option would be the Herder Shop Lightcone, which provides the wearer a 6% increase to speed. After the wearer uses the skill, increases the damage dealt by all allies by 8% for 3 turns, and at S5 it's a 12% increase to speed with a 16% increase to damage dealt by using skill. It's mainly for the actual speed buff, unfortunately, because when you do go into ultimate, you have that zone, so you're never actually allowed to use skill anymore. So you'll only have it for the 3 turns past the time you use it the first time before you go into ultimate, and once you go into ultimate finally, you can't refresh the buff. So it is mainly for the fact that it provides a 12% increase to speed at S5, which alone is enough to actually make it a good option to run. And in the beginning, or at least when you do have the first ultimate go off for a little bit longer, you can still have the damage dealt buff. Another option you can use is Victory in a Blink, which increases the wearer's crit damage by 12%. When the wearer's Memo Sprite uses an ability on an allied target, it increases the damage dealt by all allied targets by 8%, which will last for 3 turns. And so it's a 24% increase to crit damage with a 16% increase to damage dealt for all allied targets at S5. Crit damage is just going to make Cyrene herself do more damage anytime you do crit. And you are able to have good uptime on this since you are constantly using your Memo Sprite skill to buff someone depending on what you do, because eventually you could have everyone else buffed and then you decide to spam the arrow shots instead. You can just very much select one person to refresh the buff and use it that way. So even though it is weaker than all 3 other options I mentioned previously, it's still a usable option in that regard if you have none of the others. For Relic Stats, her best in slot is the 4-piece World Remaking Deliverer, which 2-piece increases crit rate by 8%. 4-piece after the wearer uses basic attack or a skill, if the wearer's Memo Spray is on the field, increases max HP of the wearer and their Memo Spray by 24%, and all allies damage dealt will increase by 15%, lasting until the next time the wearer uses basic attack or a skill. As Cyrene does do damage, getting close to 100% crit rate is very much nice, so helping her with 8% crit rate from the 2-piece is good. The 4-piece also does provide 24% increase to the max HP for the wearer and Memo Spray, so you're able to increase the HP throughout that. I know it does say the wearer's Memo Spray, or in this case Cyrene's Memo Spray, is technically not on the field. It still counts for it, so you do get the buff. And you are able to provide 15% increase damage for your entire team. And this also does stack if you have it on multiple people on the team. So if you're running around a team alongside Evernight, who also runs this 4-piece, you can actually get a 30% increase to damage for your team. So even though you're running this on someone else, you can still very much use it on Cyrene as well to just further stack the buff, making it her overall best in slot. That's really the only 4-piece you can use. If you're not running that, it is just 2-piece. So you would mainly do 2-piece speed and 2-piece speed to just get as much speed as possible. So 2-piece Relieved Ordeal with 2-piece Warrior Goddess, or one of those with Hacker Space. If not that, you can do 2-piece of one of those and do 2-piece Longevous set just for the 12% max HP, and those are kind of your only options. You can run crit sets like 2-piece Scholar, 2-piece Wave Strider, or 2-piece World Remaking Deliverer. If you want to get better crit stats to do more damage overall or more consistent crit damage overall, it's not going to be better than running 2-piece speed and 2-piece speed, or 2-piece speed and 2-piece max HP though. For Planar Ornaments, there is this new best in slot coming out in 3.7. It will increase the wearer's crit rate by 8% when the wearer's Memo Spray is on the field, increases all ally speed by 8% and cannot be stacked. This is going to be the most common one. You do run 8% crit rate for herself, so again, getting closer to 100% crit rate, and also 8% speed for everyone else. So if you're running her on the best team of a Caster's, Evernight, Hyacinth, Cyrene team, it's going to benefit all of them as well. And again, since it's going to herself, that's going to further increase her own speed, helping you reach closer to 180 or even closer to something like 200 as well. Overall, this is going to be the most common one you do want to run on her. If you want the best damage though, you can run the Bone set, which will increase the wearer's max HP by 12%. When the wearer's max HP is 5,000 or higher, increases the wearer and their Memo Spray's crit damage by 28%. 5,000 or higher should not really be a problem on HP scalers, especially Cyrene as well. So it's a free 12% increase to max HP with a free 28% crit damage to Cyrene and her Memo Spray, so it's just an overall damage increase. So if you want to run less supportive side capabilities, you can run this for better damage. Same thing also applies to the Arcadia set. When the number of allied targets on the field is not equal to 4, for every one additional / missing allied target, increases the damage dealt by the wearer and the Memo Spray by 9% / 12%, stacking up to 4 / 3 times. Her best teams are usually filled with Memo Spray characters, so again, her best team being Casters, Evernight, Hyacinth, and herself. You're going to have a lot more targets added to the field, so you are able to get a good damage increase. So if you want to, again, have better damage on Cyrene herself, then you can run the set. Although the less characters that are Remembrance with Memo Sprays on the field that you have, the less and less valuable this set becomes over something like Bone. For the main stats on the Relics, for the body, you want to mainly be running crit damage. You can also run HP %, but crit damage overall is going to be better. For the feet, you want to run speed. For the orb, you want to run ice damage or HP %. And for the link rope, you want to run HP %. For the subsets, first, prioritize speed, get it to 180 or higher. That's going to be your goal. You want to fully max out the 180 trace, and getting more than that is going to be welcomed. Actually, something really important you want to note is if you do reach 200 speed with Cyrene, you will actually be able to get 3 turns within the first cycle of something like MLC, so that can actually be a goal for you to consider. But again, 180 is going to be your far and on minimum goal, and the first thing you want to do before focusing on anything else. Past that is your generic crit rate, crit damage, and HP %. For crit rate, just get it to as close as 100% as possible, account for any buffs you are getting from your relic sets, and also account for the 50% she does give herself. Once you reach 100% crit rate in battle, you will be good to go, and getting as much crit damage is going to obviously further increase that damage, and also more HP % is going to not only increase her survivability, but her damage as well as she scales off it. So again, first, speed, get it to 180 minimum. Anything higher than that, great. If you can get it higher than 200, that's even better, and honestly ideal. Past that, crit rate, get it to 100% in battle, which is not going to be too difficult. More crit damage is also very good, and more HP % is obviously welcomed. And that does wrap up the full build guide for Cyrene. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, drop a like, would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all types of style content. And I'll see you later. Peace out.